later. Welcome everybody to this session on Community Based Adaptation in islands. My name is Gonzalo Oviedo. I work in IUCN in charge of social issues. I am based at IUCN headquarters in Switzerland. I am originally from Ecuador, and Pilar is part of my team. She's been helping in the organization of this meeting, and Andrea is the facilitator, and you know her already, and she will be taking over. So thanks everybody for coming and for bringing your knowledge and your experience and your materials to share. Essentially, the objective of this session is to provide a space for everybody to share what they have in terms of tools, in terms of approaches, in terms of experiences in working with communities in islands for climate change adaptation. You know, in IUCN, we have interest in this issue from various angles. On the one hand, we are expanding our work on adaptation, and of course community issues are an important part of that. On the other hand, we have a program focusing on islands. And of course making the connection between both is one of the interests of IUCN, and we are exploring precisely in this Congress with many other members and partners of IUCN how to strengthen both the work on islands but also the work on communities, specifically in islands. So this space is part of that effort to explore what we know, what our members, our partners know and do in relation to these issues, so that we can, you know, expand partnerships and collaboration on this extremely important issue. So, well, my interest, since my work is precisely on social issues, communities and so on, so obviously that's an interest in relation to my work. But I wanted to tell you something more personal. I was chatting briefly with Francis before starting this session, and we happened to coincide in some part of our lives in living in the Galapagos Islands, or Francis visiting various times, but I spent a few years there. I was working for the Charles Darwin Station, which is the scientific station in the islands, who does, you know, all the conservation research and science there. What Francis and I said, you know, is that Galapagos Islands somehow changed our lives. And since then, the islands marked somehow for the future, our professional futures, you know, what we do. And that's very true of me. I come, as I said, I am Ecuadorian, but I am original from the mountains, very high in the mountains. My home place is at 3,000 meters altitude, so I am more a mountain person. But when I went to Galapagos and spent these years there, I started to understand the island environment, which is so exceptional, so special, so different, of course, from the mountains, both in terms of environment and in terms of the people. I would have never understood the mentality of islanders if I had not been living with them and experiencing with them isolation. You know, this was already a long time ago. And at the time, isolation was much more determinant of the life of the islanders. And so they had a different mentality to me, and I had to learn how to live with this mentality of the islands, which is shaped by isolation, is shaped by the exposure of the islands to, you know, changes in weather, changes in climate, changes in, you know, many things. Islands are so sensitive and fragile in that sense. And people need to adapt their mentality to that environment and to isolation, as I said. All that marked my life in the sense that I understood from a very experiential you know, angle what it means and the importance that it has. Later on, after that, of course, I have read a lot about islands, and I have kept always an interest in islands. So somehow, the experience of islands, that's what I wanted to say has happened in my case. The experience of living and working in islands is one that determines a lot how you think about many issues. And one of them is communities. The relationship between communities and environment in islands is so particular, it's so strong, and it is so interlinked in terms of culture, nature, and the social behavior, that it makes all a very particular social environmental context. Anyway, that was my a little bit of my explanation as well of why I have taken an interest in creating spaces in IUCN for sharing and advancing the work with communities in islands. So essentially, we want to share learning, lessons, and experiences here on approaches and tools for community-based adaptation that you and others are using to support communities to adapt to climate change and to support their resilience. What we are going to do is to discuss, of course, not in a lot of detail, but with some detail, what the experience is of using these approaches and implementing actions for community-based adaptation. As you know very well, one of the most important issues, not just in islands, but everywhere when you work with communities on adaptation, is understanding their vulnerability, their risks to climate change impacts, and therefore understanding which are the factors that determine their vulnerability. And as we know very well, these are environmental factors, but are very strongly as well social factors. So doing good vulnerability assessments is a fundamental first step to understanding very well how to respond to the threats posed by changing climates. So that's going to be part of our session today. Then we are going to explore approaches to design and implement community-based adaptation to climate change. You know, once you do vulnerability assessments, then how you go about designing responses, designing strategies, designing programs to support the communities in their adaptation processes. And we need as well to, of course, learn about the challenges, the obstacles, the factors that determine success in the different approaches that are using. So this is broadly how we have proposed to structure the session for today. I will then pass the word on to Andrea, who's going to explain more in detail the agenda for today, and at the end of this little introduction, we will have some practical announcements before we start with the first part of the technical work. Andrea, please, and thank you again everybody for coming, and Andrea for helping us with the facilitation.
Thank you, Gonzalo. So, as we can see from the agenda that we have that, well, with the rain, we're now past 9:15, but that's okay. From 9:30 to 10, we're going to have Jonathan Schott in the back. Jonathan, you might just wave a little bit. With the CBA methodologies, key concepts and applications using CREATE. At that time, after his presentation, we will have a practical activity from 10 to 10:30. The coffee break is from 10:30 to 11. Coffee is provided. You don't have to feel desperate to go and buy a $7 coffee at the hotel in the reception. After the coffee break, we will then have from 11 to 12 to actually create your own vulnerability matrix using an ecosystem of your choosing. After this, we will have approaches and case studies about CBA, changes in climate and CBA activities in PNG Islands with Mr. Kenzie over here. Next, we'll have a training of trainers, TOT, Adapting to Climate Change with Enrique Nunez. The lunch break will occur from see, 1 to 2. Lunch is a light lunch. It has basically sandwiches. It will be delivered here to the location, so you don't have to feel like you need to wander around the hotel endlessly. So it will be come here. It's very convenient. After lunch, we're going to be moving into more of adaptation toolkits and methodologies. We'll have the presentation by Elizabeth Turk. She's there in the back. After her presentation, and then we have another speaker, Deanna Spooner, also standing back. After their presentation, we're going to do another group work exercise, which involves taking the vulnerability matrix that you will have created from the first activity this morning after Jonathan's presentation, and actually making a visual flip chart to present to a community related to where your ecosystem is located. So you're going to have practical experience on how to explain these very technical aspects of CBA to the actual community and participants that need this information. After that, we'll have another coffee break at 3:30 until 4. From 4 to 4:45, we'll be having lessons learned from experiences of CBA in islands, supporting traditional knowledge in Vanuatu with Francis Hickey over here, facilitating process for CBA to climate change in the Caribbean, Nicole Leotard from Nido. And then after that, we really would like a space for you as the participants to share your experiences, your ideas, if you'd like any clarification. We actually are really, if we stay at this nice small number, you'll have a lot of one-on-one type of time with our speakers to share their expertise, to share your ideas, your questions, your recommendations as well. I love this military timing. I'm from the United States, give me one second. After that, we'll have guided discussion on lessons and ways to move forward and a plenary discussion. And then to close out, we'll be using some conclusions of what we've learned throughout the day and the use of approaches and tools, recommendations, the next steps, and we'll have a variety of people with that, the same presenters, Jonathan, Francis, and Radiki Murti. Should I go to the next one? Now, for you guys, right in the center, we'd love if you could give us a brief introduction of yourselves, your name, your country, the name of your organization, what sector your interests, if you have any previous experience of CBA, and any current work that you have. There's a microphone right by Gonzalo, if you'd like to pass it.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Nicole Leotard. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. My organization is the Caribbean Natural Resources Institute, CANARI, which is an NGO that works in all of the Caribbean islands for about 30 years, facilitating and promoting participatory natural resource management. So we're all about working with communities and other stakeholders, but a special focus on communities who need a lot of help. Our sectors are like natural resource management, broadly. Previous experience of CBA CANARI has been, I have a presentation on this, I'm not going to talk too much, but we have been working with communities and civil society to really get their ideas and their views on what role they can play, and especially working with local communities for them to do their own vulnerability assessments and adaptation planning, not to be told what their vulnerabilities are and what they should do. So that's it. Thank you.
Morning. My name is Andrea Donaldson. I work with the National Environmental and Planning Agency in Jamaica. Specifically, I work in the ecosystems management branch. We do species conservation, but right now we're implementing the watershed management model. And so it would be interesting to provide the communities in the watershed the capability to adapt to any changes related to climate change, and that would be my interest. Currently, we don't do any CBAs, at least personally in our branch. We're mostly assessment of species and ecosystems habitat.
Good morning, I am Patty Jane Lumbanya from the Philippines. I work in an environmental NGO named Nido Foundation, a local-based NGO in Nido, Palawan. Also a tourist destination in the Philippines. And we are implementing currently on coastal resource management program, but we also have our community-based healthcare program focusing on malaria control program and reproductive health program. At this time, we are starting to implement the climate change program through introducing the vulnerability assessment, which has been introduced to us by the University of the Philippines Marine Science Institute. And we are assisting the community to incorporate the output of the vulnerability assessment in our comprehensive land and water use plan of our municipality. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Ricky Nunez. I'm from the Philippines. I represent Conservation International Philippines, and that's the name of my organization. I work in the marine sector, and I'll be presenting later on, so I'll explain to you the work that we do in the Sulawesi Seascape. It's a marine conservation area that we have been working on for quite some time, and we have existing programs on climate change adaptation, ecosystem-based climate change adaptation in the Verde Island Passage. Previous experience with CBA, yeah, I'll explain that to you later on. Our current work on community-based adaptation. Thanks.
Good morning, Francis Siki. I'm Canadian by birth, but I've been based in the Pacific Islands for the last 20 years, living in Port Vila Vanuatu, and work with the Vanuatu Cultural Center, National Museum. So the sector I'm with is primarily resource management oriented, with an emphasis on the role of traditional knowledge. Been doing that for a long time, including when I was in Canada working with First Nations groups. The current work, same, so that continues on. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is John Bosco Kensi Tobareli, from Papua New Guinea. I come from one of the 19th provinces of Papua New Guinea, which is Bougainville. It is a province that has gone into an autonomous region arrangement from the government of Papua New Guinea. And I'm from a small island of Carteret Island, which is experiencing the effects of climate change at the moment. I'm here representing Telele Pesa. It's a local organization, an initiative taken up by the islanders to so that they can have a say in what is happening with the changes in our weather patterns at the moment. I'll be doing a presentation too, so I'll talk about what we do as an organization. And previous experiences with CBAs, I've had a lot of it, but I'll talk more about it when it comes to the presentation.
Hello, my name is Black Bones. I guess at this point everyone knows me. And well, you all know that I come from Spain, and I'm working at ICN since 2011. My main focus was always related more to the marine or coastal ecosystems. But previously I was working also, I was focused also on terrestrial ecosystems, so both also livelihoods and communities for sure. So my previous experience of CBA, I was working in Madagascar for 1 year in Comoros Islands, and it was there that I realized that that was something that really interested me. So that's why now I'm currently working with Gonzalo at ICN on that.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Schultz. but you can just call me Joe. I'm a Brit by birth, but I've been working in Thailand for about 10 years now, and I'm pleased to see that our participants today mostly have a natural resource background, because the organisation I work with, SDF, it's a Thai NGO, we started with NRM work, but we've been working on resilience and vulnerability of coastal communities now for since the tsunami, since the Indian Ocean tsunami, so it's about eight years, I think.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Liz Kirk. I'm originally from the US, but I work in the Federated States of Micronesia, and I'm representing the Micronesia Conservation Trust. We mainly do work in biodiversity conservation, and we support that work through grant making and capacity building. And so the work we're doing right now, which I'll share with you later this afternoon, is that we've developed a toolkit to use with communities to do CBA work. And so currently with that, we're finalized the toolkit in the process of training those in Micronesia who do resource management, and also community leaders on how to use the toolkit with their community.